Welcome to Stay Clean and Safe, a podcast created with the financial support of the European Union. Here we share ideas, tips, and stories that will help us build healthier, safer, and cleaner communities together. Let's get started. Hello. Today we will talk about what really affects our everyday life, health, and well-being. We will look at something that probably everyone loves: food. We will not only talk about what we eat, but how we eat. Why we eat in a certain way and what we can change to take care not only of our body, but also of the planet. We talk about the habits of food youth and how important they are for physical and mental health. We will think about why it is so difficult to make healthy changes and how to make good habits stay with us longer, without frustration and a constant restart. We will also look at the zero waste concept looks like in practice. In other words, how to eat consciously, taking care of the environment. Is it even possible with a tight schedule and a limited budget? We invited people who support youth on their way to change, from unhealthy habits to a conscious and balanced lifestyle. We will find out what works in practice and how to support young people in building a healthy relationship with food and with themselves. Today's guests are Anna, a youth educator organizing and running educational workshops for young people, cooperating with youth associations for mental and physical health.
Good morning.
And also Claudia, a student representative of youth, promoting healthy eating habits and the zero waste approach.
Good morning.
Anna, let's start with you. You work with young people on a daily basis. Do you notice that the topic of nutrition and lifestyle is an important issue for them?
It all depends on the person. Since it became popular to be fit and fit products appeared on shelves, protein plus products and the like, it has become a more popular topic. In the past, nutrition did not dominate among young people as the main topic of classes, but since the culture of being fit has emerged, more and more often there are various topics of nutrition, healthy nutrition, not wasting products, and the composition of products.
Claudia, what is your perspective? You are a student, you work in student organizations as well as in scouting. Do you see that this topic is important for your peers?
I think so because, first of all, in society we talk about it more and more. Content appears on social media, but also various policies such as those from the European Union, which are more pro-ecological and more pro-healthy nutrition. Therefore, I believe that my circle of acquaintances, whether students or organizations, talk more and more about it. In NGOs, there is even such a pressure to talk about it, to educate about zero waste, about better healthy nutrition, how it affects us. I remember when I was a 13-year-old, we talked about it in scouting, how it affects us, because it also helped us to learn what to eat when we were growing up, for example, to feel better, and what will have a worse impact on our hormonal changes, or not to waste food, because it emits a very large amount of water, simply wasted. Therefore, I believe that this topic of healthy nutrition and ecology is growing more and more in my environment. And this is because it is becoming more and more popular on social media, or there is more and more talk about it in politics, or there are even more rights imposed on us that we do not live by every day.
I think this is a good time to ask a question. How do you really understand? How do you interpret healthy eating habits? What does it mean to you?
In my opinion, healthy nutrition and healthy eating habits concern the way we eat, the relationship we have with food, how we relate to the topic of food in general, as well as to the ecology related to nutrition. That is, do we waste food, do we use plastic, or do we rather use bottles, for example, reusable or bottles? For me, it means healthy eating habits.
For me, however, just like Anna, I believe that eating habits are, above all, our attitude to food. Whether we want to eat well, because it's also just, let's face it, these fast foods tempt us on a daily basis. Especially when I was going out of scouts meetings and I saw that the first thing my scouts were doing was going to shop for a hot dog or a veggie burger, something that really has a tragic component. First of all, it's the awareness of what we eat. Because not all products that are promoted in such a way, ecological or mega healthy, it turns out that when we take a closer look at this component, they are not like that at all. Another thing is our education.
You touched on the topic of education, and I think it's a good time to ask Anna whether young people are willing to talk at all about nutrition, about healthy eating habits, about a healthy lifestyle, and whether, in your opinion, enough attention is paid to it on a daily basis, and whether in formal or informal education?
Young people today, at least the one I have contact with, are most interested in the topic of healthy eating and healthy and good eating habits. They usually look for answers to what is really good and where to start if we want to improve our eating habits. This is due to the fact that they receive a lot of contradictory information, especially from social media or popular scientific sources, which are not always good. Also, products that, as Claudia said, are advertised as fit or healthy with healthy food are not at all what their composition indicates. Therefore, if we start educating someone about healthy eating, we should not start by telling them that they should buy products marked as healthy food, but to start with small things. For example, drinking water instead of sweetened drinks, or, for example, replacing one or using vegetables as a side dish for dinner, making a salad instead of sandwiches for school, and so on. As for whether they are supported or educated when it comes to eating in schools, not by themselves, in my opinion, our education on healthy eating is at a very low level. Because, in fact, apart from the basic information, which is the food pyramid, this topic is not discussed in any classes. The only improvement I have noticed in recent times is that the board requires rather healthy things to be sold in school shops, and not, as in my time, mainly sweets.
And what does it look like from your perspective, Claudia?
In NGOs, there are usually such goals to educate about healthy eating or ecology or to act on these two things. Therefore, there is a lot of pressure on it because it is institutionally established in organizations. As well as in such organizations, education outside of formal education is used, which is simply learning through fun, which is my favorite science because it is based on empiricism, that is learning through experience, which is the best in all of this. And children, students, and, in fact, volunteers, and everyone noticed that it does not associate with boredom and tinkering with an empty formula about whether a salad will give us more strength or maybe a piece of ham, but that it actually translates into combining it with good fun. So it seems to me that this informal education is such a breakthrough step towards education about healthy eating.
So, for sure, one of the big challenges of habits for young people is eating in the city, and it is certainly a big challenge to eat in the city and eat healthy. And here we are additionally talking about another issue. Can we eat well and not spend a fortune on it?
It's not about buying all these products marked as healthy food, which are usually twice as expensive as others, but, for example, going to the market, buying fresh vegetables, fresh fruit, making a salad, it doesn't cost at all. I would even say that it is much cheaper than buying lunches in restaurants every now and then, or eating out in the city. And also, when it comes to time, for example, I understand that not everyone has time to cook every day. So make yourself, for example, lunch for 2 to 3 days. I know you eat the same and maybe it won't be super extra for you, but really, it works wonders. Eat lunch for 2 days, make yourself breakfast in the evening, put it in the fridge, make the second breakfast the day before, and it's possible, really.
Claudia, what tricks do you have for saving healthy food?
First of all, a lot of my friends go on so-called skips. That is, they just come in the evening before closing to the store, such large ones like Biedronka, Carrefour, and they ask if they have something, a date, such a weak date of importance. So this is the first way. The second way, when I lived alone abroad, I very often use such an application, Too Good To Go, whose task is where people just go to their small companies, such as cafes or even large ones like Carrefour, for example. It is very popular in Lodz or Orlen, BP station. They display food that they know will just go bad, and it is 70% cheaper. And it saved me a lot, for example, on the exchange where I was, because if I didn't have time, or I didn't feel like cooking, I took, for example, a meal from Azor's Pokebo, and I bought it there for just €3 out of 15. And this meal was very, very good, because there were only vegetables inside. Actually, with rice. That's it. I, for example, personally don't like meat. I'm just not a vegan. Sometimes I eat meat, but I see when I do shopping, or when my mom and I do shopping, that my meatless products are much, much cheaper, and that overall it costs a lot less money. I think these are the 3 tricks, and the problem I often encounter is that sometimes I waste food, because I'm not able to eat as much as I have to buy in the market, that, for example, half a kilo of chickpeas, I'm not able to eat them until I'm fed up with myself. I think that a good practice can be to buy groceries with someone for half, just.
Anna, we just talked about zero waste, which in a way is also related to healthy eating and a balanced way of thinking about food. Tell me, from your perspective as an educator, what are the simple actions that teenagers can take to limit food waste? In addition, of course, to what Claudia mentioned.
First of all, let's plan our shopping and plan our menu. Thanks to this, we won't have to buy excess products and we will know exactly what we have in the cabinets. Also, before going shopping, remember to check the cabinets and fridges. Secondly, use the leftovers. Creativity really pays off here. We are also lucky to live in the age of the internet and artificial intelligence, which was recently made aware of by the participants of my workshops. If you really have no idea how to use leftovers, enter the products you have into the GPT chat and ask for a simple and easy quick recipe. You will definitely get an answer. One more thing, check the expiration date and eat what breaks down faster. This is a basic mistake that most people make, and it is very easy to fix. And remember about the correct storage of food. Closed food in containers keeps freshness longer. If we boil something too much, it is worth taking into account sharing with someone, for example, with a colleague or neighbor. Such small changes can have a huge impact not only on our wallet, but also on how much garbage we produce.
We already know how to eat in a more balanced way, how to do it healthier, but now I wanted to ask you if it is worth it. On the one hand, sometimes we talk about the issue of obesity. That is the impact of malnutrition on our body. But on the other hand, our way of eating may also affect our spirit, our mind. Have you observed, or do you know how nutrition affects our self-esteem?
For example, healthy fats can be found in nuts or fish. They support the brain's work and improve memory. In turn, carbohydrates, such as bread or groats, give us energy for longer and help us stay focused in class. Vitamins are also very important, especially those from Group B, or magnesium and iron. Their shortcomings can lead to fatigue, irritability, and even mood swings. Unfortunately, in our times, we eat too much sugar and processed food, and it has a negative impact on our well-being. It causes mood swings, drowsiness, or dissociation. In turn, hunger causes sensitivity and lack of concentration, so let's remember that the first meal of the day should be a decent breakfast. Simply put, a healthy diet is one of the simplest tools we have to take care of our mental health, concentration, and good self-esteem every day.
In general, it is very, very important to work with young people, to take care of them, to feed them, because often it also deals with some malnutrition problems. And when we are in colonies or we have several-day workshops, it is very important that young people take care of themselves, because many times I have come across such a situation that someone did not eat enough, for example, or ate too little, after which it resulted in, for example, that in the camp he was just limping because his body did not have all these nutrients supplemented, so he just had to deal with it himself in a certain way. And the same is with heat stroke. There is heat now, so remember to drink at least 2 liters of water every day. And also, above all, it seems to me that this healthy diet can have an impact on good self-esteem, not only internal, but also external, because what we eat also has an impact on how our hormones work. Therefore, this heat stroke, for example, may or may not intensify, which also affects the mental health of young people, which is very, very important at this time to take care of it.
Okay, then let's think about how to put it into practice. Anna, tell me, for people who want to start this new path in their lives, a healthy, conscious diet, would you advise a radical change or small steps?
Definitely, radical changes should be avoided. For everyone who suddenly wants to change their diet, they want to be fit, they want to be vegan, I definitely advise against it because usually after 2 to 3 weeks, we go back to our old habits because it is too big and suddenly a burden for the body. The path of small steps is the best choice. You can really start with small things. You can make a weekly plan. For example, I drink 2 liters of water a week. In the next one, I add 1 portion of fruit or vegetables. In the next one whole meal, for example, is supposed to be healthy food. It really works wonders. Reward yourself for enduring because it's not easy. Changing yourself is never easy, but it's worth starting with something and really start with small steps. It doesn't matter that others around you say they are fit, that they eat this and that. It doesn't matter. Act in a way that is good for you and not in a way that you cut yourself and worsen your mental health because you know you won't be able to stand it. Slowly, calmly, and it will be fine.
Where do we get knowledge about healthy eating?
It seems to me that nowadays it is difficult to get knowledge about any topic because we live in a time of hybrid war. Therefore, any information on the internet can be in any way contradictory. That's why it seems to me that it's hard to find such information. However, what I use and what I recommend, for example, personal trainers, they just put in the recipes and write that it has this much protein or that it has this much carbohydrates. The second thing I use to keep such a minimum is such an application on the phone. It's called Healthy Purchases, thanks to which we simply scan the barcode of a given product and a list appears. Because not everyone knows what, for example, E47 or E53 means. Then this application verifies this list and then tells us what is very harmful, what is less harmful, what is great for our body. And here's a fun fact. When I was going to the gym and I started to be very interested in it, I bought these bars that clearly suggested that they have a lot of protein and are great for the gym and for sporty people, and I scanned this barcode. Thanks to this application, it turned out that this composition has everything in red. For example, mega harmful, carcinogenic, and so on. And when I scanned an ordinary popular bar, it turned out that it has a better composition. Even after the gym, it has more protein than the product that is suggested, and has such a well-produced marketing, and has such a well-made advertisement to eat it after the gym or training.
At the very end of our conversation, I would like to ask you, Anna, what advice would you give a young person who wants to start taking care of themselves and their health and how to deal with the crisis that may occur on such a journey?
As I said before, start with small steps. There must be no sudden changes. And even if you can't stand it, don't break down, don't stop, start from the beginning, and everything will be fine.
Thank you for listening to Stay Clean and Safe, a project funded by the European Union. Remember, small steps lead to great changes in maintaining our world clean and safe. Take care of yourself and be safe.